Let me guess. You're frustrated. You feel like you're spinning in circles, like you're putting in effort but getting nowhere. And you've told yourself 100 times, I'm doing everything I can. No, you're not. And that is exactly why you're stuck. You've convinced yourself that your life is harder than everyone else's, that your circumstances are unique, that if you just had more time, more money, more support, then you'd move, then you'd grow, then you'd become the person you dream of being. But let's call it like it is. You've made a home out of your you water them, feed them, raise them like your children. You've gotten comfortable in the discomfort, familiar in your failure, and worst of all, you've started to defend the very thing that's destroying you, your comfort zone. That's why you're stuck. You scroll for hours, call it unwinding. You procrastinate and call it rest. You avoid hard conversations and call it protecting your peace. You say you're overwhelmed, but it's not that you have too much to do. It's that you've made yourself too small for the life you say you want. You're not stuck because the world is against you. You're stuck because you're still waiting for someone to come save you. And guess what? No one's coming. No mentor, no coach, no partner, no miracle. You have to get yourself out. You have to decide you are stuck because your standards are low. You're stuck because your commitment is conditional. You're stuck because you don't want it bad enough to bleed for it. You say you're grinding, but only when it's convenient. You say you're focused, but you check your phone every 5 minutes. You say you're tired, but it's not fatigue, it's lack of purpose. You say you're trying, but you don't try with fire, you try with fear. And you wonder why you're not making progress. Here's the truth. The future you want doesn't respond to the version of you that's still negotiating with discipline. The life you dream of doesn't answer to hesitation or laziness or comfort. It answers to war. It answers to obsession. It answers to the version of you who says, I will not be average. I will not stay stuck. I will not waste this one shot I've been given. The moment you stop asking for permission, the moment you stop waiting for the perfect conditions, and the moment you start showing up like your life depends on it, that's the moment the door unlocks. But the key, that's in your hands. So get up, burn the excuses, starve your weakness, choke the voice that says, maybe later, because you're not stuck. You're just comfortable, and comfort is a cage. Break it. You've normalized mediocrity. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to tell you. Somewhere along the line, you stopped aiming high. You stopped pushing. You settled for just getting by. You told yourself that it was good enough. And now, you're living in a life that reflects exactly that. Just enough. Not great, not extraordinary, not powerful. Just enough to get through the day. You wake up with no fire. You coast through your routines like a robot, not because you can't do more, but because you've trained yourself to believe this is all you're meant for. You've confused routine with purpose. You've replaced vision with comfort, and now you call it peace. But it's not peace. It's numbness. It's quiet defeat. You've built a lifestyle that avoids friction, avoids growth, and avoids accountability. You've traded ambition for comfort, and then you wonder why you feel stuck. Look around you. The same conversations, the same circle, the same tired habits. You scroll past people winning in life and feel a twinge of jealousy, a sting of resentment, or, worse, you feel nothing at all. You've dulled your hunger so much that you don't even crave more anymore. You've adapted to mediocrity like it's a survival tactic. You've made it your new normal. That's why your goals don't scare you. That's why your dreams stay dreams. Because deep down, you've stopped believing you're capable of anything more. And don't think this is about money or fame or some grand image of success. This is about waking up with purpose. This is about looking in the mirror and knowing you gave it everything. Mediocrity doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in silently. It looks like hitting snooze 5 times. It looks like skipping the gym just for today. It looks like watching one more episode instead of working on your goals. It looks like telling yourself, I'll start tomorrow, again and again and again. You've become so good at managing your current life that you forgot you were born to build something greater, that you were meant to create, to lead, to overcome, but now you're just surviving. You've convinced yourself that as long as the bills are paid, as long as nobody's complaining, as long as life isn't falling apart, you're doing okay. But you didn't come here to do okay. You didn't come here to be remembered as someone who managed. You came here to dominate, to rise, to leave a mark. And yes, mediocrity feels safe. It's familiar. It doesn't require risk or failure or discomfort. But that's exactly the trap. Comfort is not your friend. It lulls you into a life where you feel busy but not productive, where you feel safe but not fulfilled, where your soul slowly goes quiet, buried under layers of I'm fine. But fine is a lie. You're not fine. You're underperforming. You're under-living. You're stuck in a reality you built with low standards and soft decisions. You're not stuck because you lack potential. You're stuck because you lack standards. Because you've let your circumstances tell you who you are instead of deciding who you're going to be. Because you've let fear whisper, don't try too hard. Don't aim too high. Don't rock the boat. And you listened. You listened, and now mediocrity has a seat at your table. But here's the truth. You don't have to stay here. You can choose something different. You can raise the bar. You can get uncomfortable on purpose. You can stop justifying average and start demanding excellence from yourself. You can stop being impressed by a minimal effort and start holding yourself to a higher level. Because that fire you used to have, it's not gone. It's buried. Under years of compromise, function you defied to promote yourself to a higher level. Under choices you knew weren't aligned. Under the comfort you called success. Dig it out. Remember what it feels like to want more, to hunger for greatness, to look at your life and say, this isn't who I'm meant to be, not yet. That's how you kill mediocrity. That's how you break the cycle. Not with some miracle moment, but with a choice. A choice to stop settling. A choice to raise your standards. A choice to fight for the life you were born to live. Because once you see what you've accepted as normal, you'll realize exactly why you've been stuck. And once you refuse to accept it any longer, everything changes. You wait for perfect conditions. That's one of the biggest lies you've sold yourself. The idea that you'll act once the stars align, once you feel motivated, once the timing feels right, once you have more time, more clarity, more money, more support. But that day doesn't come. It never does. Because perfect conditions are a myth. And the longer you wait for them, the deeper you sink into the quicksand of stagnation. You tell yourself, I'm just preparing. You tell yourself, I'm just waiting for the right moment. But what you're really doing is stalling. You're delaying the inevitable. You're scared to start messy, scared to look foolish, scared to take a step and realize it's not perfect. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Progress is ugly. Success is chaotic. The beginning is always clumsy, and nobody gets it all figured out before they start. They start and figure it out as they go. That's how growth happens. But you're standing on the sidelines, making checklists, overthinking, doubting, hesitating. You keep saying when, as if some magical version of yourself is going to appear tomorrow with more courage, more time, more discipline. You don't need tomorrow. You need to move today. You need to stop using timing as a shield. Because let's be real, you've wasted more time waiting than you ever have working. The people you look up to, the ones making moves, building things, living the life you wish you had, they didn't wait. They acted with fear in their chest and doubt in their mind, but they moved anyway. That's the difference. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's movement. It's the willingness to take action even when everything in you wants to stay comfortable. And if you keep waiting for the world to make it easier, you're going to look back in 5, 10, 20 years and realize you built your entire life around hesitation. You think you need clarity, but clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from doing. You think you need confidence, but confidence is built through action. You don't become strong by thinking about lifting weights. You get strong by picking them up, even when they feel heavy. And life is the same way. You don't earn your next level by planning it. You earn it by living through the chaos of not knowing and pushing forward anyway. And let's not pretend you don't have time. You do. You have time. You've just given it away to distractions, to doubts, to excuses. You've got hours in your day that could change your entire life if you use them with intention. But instead you scroll, you wait, you fantasize about change without paying the price to make it happen, and then you tell yourself a story that justifies the delay. Now is not the right time. I've got too much going on. I'll start next week. Next week turns into next month. Next month turns into next year. And eventually, the window closes. Not because it disappeared, but because you sat there waiting instead of walking through it. That's how dreams die. Not with a bang, but with a quiet delay that lasts too long. You don't need the perfect plan. You need the courage to take the imperfect first step. You don't need the perfect setup. You need to move with what you've got, because done beats perfect. Action beats intention, and movement beats waiting every single time. Then all the conditions won't be perfect. The timing won't ever feel just right. But if you keep waiting, you'll never know what could have been. And that, not failure, not struggle, not mistakes, is a real tragedy. You don't need more time. You need to stop waiting. You need to start. You're addicted to excuses, not just casually leaning on them here and there. Addicted. You've built an entire mindset, an entire identity around why you can't do something. You don't just make excuses, you nurture them. You protect them like they're sacred. You don't even realize it anymore because it's become second nature. Every time a challenge shows up, your mind instantly fires off a defense mechanism. I'm tired. I'm too busy. It's not the right time. They don't understand my situation. Excuses have become your comfort food, your fallback, and here's the kicker. Most of your excuses sound reasonable. That's what makes them so dangerous. You've dressed them up as logic, as caution, as wisdom. But they're not. They're fear in disguise. They're resistance hiding behind fake responsibility. You've used them so often, you've convinced yourself they're truth. But they're not truth. They're stories. Stories you tell yourself to avoid taking full ownership of your life. Every single person faces challenges. Every single person has real reasons why things are hard. But you've crossed the line from reason to excuse. You've used your struggles as justification to stay still, to not even try. And every time you do that, you reinforce the belief that you're powerless, that life is happening to you instead of through you. You've gotten so used to explaining why you're stuck that you've stopped even trying to get out. You've made not moving an identity. I would do more if I wasn't so stressed, but you don't realize the stress comes from not doing the thing. I'd go harder if I had more support, but you don't even support yourself with discipline and follow-through. I'd be consistent if I had more time. You have time, you just haven't made yourself the priority. You're using every outside factor as a scapegoat, so you never have to confront the reality that your progress is in your hands. Let's call it what it is. You're scared. Scared of failing, scared of succeeding, scared of change. So instead of admitting that, you cloak it in excuses. You tell yourself you're not ready. You tell yourself, life's just a little crazy right now. And deep down, a part of you knows it's a lie, but it's more comfortable than facing the truth. Because the truth, that would mean taking responsibility. That would mean waking up to the fact that your life is exactly where your decisions have led you. And that truth hurts. But do you know what hurts more? Staying stuck, wasting time, living with the slow, daily regret of knowing you could be more, but choosing not to be. That's the real pain. That's the pain you numb with your excuses. And the longer you feed them, the more they own you. The hard truth is this. Nothing changes until you stop buying your own excuses. Nothing moves until you decide you're done blaming time, circumstances, people, the past, your job, your schedule, your childhood, your energy levels, the economy, all of it. None of those things have the power you think they do. Your excuses aren't external walls. They're internal decisions. There are people with less time than you, less money, less talent, less support, who are still out there building, grinding, rising. Not because it's easy, but because they decided to stop giving their excuses a seat at the table. They chose action over stories. They chose responsibility over victimhood. And that's what you need to do. You need to become the kind of person who sees the excuse, hears it loud in your head, and moves anyway. Who recognizes the urge to play small and says, not today. Who feels the fear and the doubt and the fatigue and still shows up. That's where the breakthrough lives. Not in perfect plans, not in ideal circumstances, but in the decision to stop surrendering to your excuses and start rewriting your story. You are not a victim of your life. You are the author, but you've got to stop handing the pen over to your excuses, because as long as they're writing your story, you're stuck in the same chapter. The day you stop protecting your excuses is the day everything starts to shift. That's when momentum begins. That's when discipline wakes up. That's when results show up. But it all starts with a brutal level of honesty. The kind that doesn't feel good, but sets you free. So be real with yourself. Stop telling stories that keep you safe and start building habits that make you strong. You don't need a better plan. You need to drop the excuses. You don't need a miracle. You need a decision. And it needs to happen now. You avoid pain, so you avoid growth. It's really that simple. You think pain is the enemy. You think struggle means something's wrong. But the truth is, pain is the price of transformation. Growth doesn't come gift wrapped. It doesn't show up at your door with a smile. It shows up in the form of resistance, discomfort, pressure. But instead of walking through it, you back away. You pull back every time things get heavy. Every time the path gets rough, you take it as a sign to quit, not a signal to push forward. And that's exactly why you're stuck. You've been trained, maybe not directly, but subtly, by a world that tells you to chase ease. Don't work too hard. Protect your peace. If it doesn't come naturally, it's not meant for you. What nonsense! Real peace comes after you've gone through the fire, not before it. What you call peace right now is just avoidance. You're not protecting your energy, you're protecting your comfort zone, because you built a life designed to keep you safe, not strong. You say you want to grow. You say you want to evolve. But you can't have both safety and growth. You have to choose. Growth demands friction. It demands that you stretch beyond what's easy. It requires that you fail in public, fall on your face, get humbled, get rejected, and keep going anyway. And most people never get there, because the second it hurts, they think something's broken. They run from the very thing that would change their life. But let me make this clear. Pain is the price of progress. You cannot build strength without resistance. You cannot build discipline without doing things when you don't feel like it. You cannot become the best version of yourself by staying in the same conditions that created your current one. Growth isn't comfortable. It isn't cute. It's gritty. It's lonely. It's exhausting. But it's worth it. You've got to stop treating discomfort like it's a red light. It's not. It's a green light that says you're on the right track. The pain you feel when you push past your limits, that's growth. The confusion you feel when you don't have all the answers, that's growth. The fear you feel when you take a risk and don't know how it'll turn out, that's real growth. But instead of stepping into it, you numb it. You distract yourself. You scroll. You eat. You procrastinate. You relax. And then you wonder why nothing changes. You run from the hard stuff because you believe deep down that life should feel good all the time. But nothing great is built from feeling good all the time. It's built through consistent action in the face of resistance. It's built when you show up tired, when you show up scared, when you show up not knowing if it's going to work. But you show up anyway. You have to rewire your relationship with pain. You have to stop seeing it as something to dodge and start seeing it as something to earn. You have to develop the mindset that says, if this is hard, good. That means I'm growing. That means I'm becoming. Because on the other side of that pain is power. On the other side of that resistance is resilience. On the other side of that struggle is the version of you that you keep talking about, dreaming about, wishing for. You can't become that person without pain. You don't get to skip the process. You don't get to keep your comfort and have your transformation. It doesn't work like that. You either lean into the pain and grow, or you avoid it and stay stuck. You either get uncomfortable now, or you stay uncomfortable forever in a life that doesn't reflect your potential. And you know what hurts more than the pain of growth? The pain of regret. The pain of knowing you had the chance to evolve but chose ease. The pain of watching others rise while you stayed seated, convincing yourself it just wasn't the right time. That's the pain you can't numb. That's the one that lingers. That's the one that eats at you quietly. So feel the pain now. Do the hard things. Push through when it's not pretty. Because pain isn't your enemy. It's your passage. It's the process that forges strength. It's the signal that you're finally stretching into the life you're meant to live. And the moment you stop running from it, that's the moment you start to rise. You don't follow through. You start, but you don't stay. You begin with a spark, but the fire never lasts. You get hyped up, motivated for a few days, maybe even a week, but then life gets loud, distractions creep in, and your old habits pull you right back into the same place you've always been. Almost consistent, almost disciplined, almost there, but not quite. You don't finish what you start, and that's exactly why you're stuck. It's not that you don't know what to do. You've read the books. You've watched the videos. You've had the plans. You've made the promises to yourself. This time will be different. But different doesn't come from making another plan. It comes from keeping the one you made. Falling through when the mood fades. Showing up when the initial fire dies down and all you're left with is the grind. You have a pattern. Get excited, take action, hit resistance, quit. And you've done it so often, it's become normal. You think starting strong is enough. You think being inspired matters more than being relentless. But greatness doesn't come to the person who starts with intensity. It comes to the one who finishes with consistency. And consistency isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It's not exciting. It's doing the boring things, the small things, over and over, long after the motivation is gone. You say you want change, but you've trained yourself to give up at the first sign of discomfort. You let your feelings dictate your actions. I'm tired. I'm not in the mood. I'll do it tomorrow. But here's the truth. The version of you that gets results, that version does it anyway. That version doesn't negotiate. That version doesn't check the mood of the moment. They check the mission. And let's be real. You've had enough day ones. What you need now is a day 97, a day 148, a day 271, the day where no one's clapping, the day where it's just you, your habits, and your future on the line. That's where transformation lives, not in the hype of beginning, but in the grit of continuing. Anybody can be excited on day one. Show me who you are when it's boring, when it's repetitive, when no one's watching. You don't need more inspiration. You need more follow-through. You need to build the discipline of finishing, of doing what you said you would do long after the feeling you set it in has left. Because if you keep quitting every time it gets inconvenient, you'll keep getting the same result, stuck. And every time you quit, you teach yourself something dangerous. That your word means nothing. That your goals don't matter. That you can break promises to yourself without consequence. That's not just a lack of discipline. That's a lack of self-respect. You can't build confidence if you don't trust yourself. And you can't trust yourself if you never follow through. But here's the good news. You can change that story. You can become the kind of person who finishes. The kind who doesn't just show up when it's easy, but shows up regardless. You can rewire your identity by stacking proof. Proof that says, I don't quit. Proof that says, I finish what I start. And every time you push through the resistance, you add to that proof. Every time you don't quit, you shift who you are. It doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be perfect. But it has to be done. If you said you'd do it, do it. If you committed, deliver. That's how trust is built. That's how momentum grows. That's how you break free. Because the truth is, your future doesn't care about how you feel right now. It only cares about what you do. And until you start following through fully, consistently, you'll keep feeling like you're meant for more while living far beneath your potential. You don't need another fresh start. You need a finish line. You need to stop quitting when it's hard and start finishing because it's hard. That's how you rise. That's how you shift from stuck to unstoppable, not with more inspiration, with execution. every single day.